Alright, so I've removed the GTX 1070 from the system. What an absolute weapon this card is. Still fantastic to this day for 1080p gaming, especially if you're a bit of a budget baller. And I've got the 970 right here. This is another MSI version, 4GB of GDDR5 VRAM, and it's actually 3.5GB of faster speed RAM and half a gigabyte of slower speed RAM. There are other YouTube videos that go into that in a little more detail, but yeah, we're gonna put this into the system. It actually fits perfectly with the red and black color scheme. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to testing this one out in some games. So regarding pricing, the GTX 1070 here in Australia still sells for over $200 Australian or AUD, and the 970, it's about $150, although if you were buying them about a year and a half ago, you could find them for $100. They have gone back up in price, but either still represents a very good option if you're on a budget. I mean, if you're really, going to be hamstrung by the VRAM limitations, definitely go with the 1070, but I still think the GTX 970 has a lot of life left in it. But yeah, I'll be showing you today that the i7 6700K still makes a great pairing with the GTX 970. I'm actually pretty happy with how this build turned out. Nice. It does look pretty good, you've got to admit. There we go, had to neaten that up a little bit. Beautiful. Okay, now let's see if the drivers detect the GPU. GTX 970, 4GB. There we go, that's exactly what we wanted to see. I just need to reiterate again that this 6700K is currently overclocked to a stable 4.8 GHz. I've been able to get it up to 4.9 GHz, but it starts to lose some of its stability. I was able to hit 5 twice, but obviously with very little stability. Performance is pretty solid. Now let me just start the benchmarking. I mean, if your only intention is to play World of Warcraft Classic, albeit this is Season of Discovery, but this is playing absolutely flawlessly, and we're on a mix of medium and high settings here. Yeah, 6 out of 10 on the quality slider, and it's a mix of like high, good, and ultra settings with pretty decent environment, distance, and whatnot. Yeah, for 1080p gaming, if all you want to do is play World of Warcraft Classic, the GTX 970 is going to be an excellent option for you. Granted, this is like one of the lower level areas, but with all the forestry and stuff, it's still pretty demanding on the GPU. The further we go into the forest, into Darkshore, it's obviously going to drop a little bit. But above 200 FPS, look at those frame times. Look how straight as an arrow. Let me just zoom in a little bit more. Show off some combat here. Yeah, this is running absolutely flawlessly. I've ended the benchmarking. Let's just bump it up to 1440p. So you can see there, render scale, we're at 133%, so 1440p. So if you've got a 1440p monitor and you've only got a GTX 970, I'll just start the benchmarking again. I think this is going to be a solid option for you. Quite a bit faster than the GTX 1050 Ti. Even with that slightly lower VRAM. Yeah, this is a high refresh rate experience. Beautiful, it's playing beautifully. Now for some 7 Days to Die at 1080p medium settings. This is one of my favorite games of all time, and it's actually performing better than I thought it would. This is just a new custom world. It's not a pre-made world or anything. It's completely random. Oh, hello. I'm just gonna start the benchmarking pretty soon. Let's do it now. Something behind me, no? Oh, we got him. Oh, we've got an infection. That's no good. Let's loot this place. Obviously, indoors, the performance is going to be even better. Probably should have used the torch as a weapon, actually. It's dropping in FPS a bit now, but it's loading some stuff in. Four shotgun shells. Hello. It's still very playable. 1080p medium. Like, this is absolutely gonna be fair enough for somebody to play. I need to let my stamina recharge. Oh my god, stop it. Desert biome over here. Let's see how the game handles loading in a new biome. One thing about 7 Days to Die is that it's an incredibly RAM intensive game. Like 1080p medium settings, and we're using half of the computer's RAM. The computer has 16 gigabytes. It's not running as smoothly as World of Warcraft Classic, but it's a much more intensive game. Zombie over here. Oh my god. Oh my god, I'm getting attacked by a bloody vulture. We're gonna bleed out here, we're gonna die. Oh yeah, we're dead. What a fitting end to the benchmarking for 7 Days to Die. Well, it runs pretty well for 1080p medium. Let's respawn and try 1080p low. We've also got the FOV set pretty high as well. I think it's at the maximum of 85. So if you lower that FOV, you will get better performance. Low. Now keep in mind, this isn't lowest, this is just 1080p low. Definitely looks worse. Now let me just end that benchmarking run and I'll start it again soon. Alright, everything should have loaded in properly now. The game just looks much older with these settings. Found some murky water. Farming magazine. Oh, hello. It's definitely a more consistent experience at 1080p low, but I would probably prefer to play this on 1080p medium just for that increased visual fidelity. So yeah, pretty solid game to run with the GTX 970. Next up we've got Brotato, one of my favorite indie games right now. It's playing at a flawless 60 FPS. I'll benchmark it in a second. What am I going to pick here? Let's go crit chance. Let's reroll. More luck is never a bad thing. Baby gecko, and then lock that one. Okay, let's benchmark this. There is the occasional frame time hitch, as you can see, but I'm not feeling that within the game. And I still get that on my 7900 XTX system as well, and my 4070 gaming laptop. So that's a problem with the game, not this computer in particular. That 1% low is more indicative of the frames in the menu and the level up screen. Just keep that in mind. Yeah, this is running flawlessly. If you want to play some of these lighter weight indie titles, you can definitely do so. I mean, you can do them on you can play this on integrated graphics, but it's just good to know that, you know, if all you have available is a GTX 970 and a CPU that's a few years old, a decent amount of RAM, you can get away with playing these titles, no problem. Left 4 Dead 2 now. This is survival mode. What are we gonna go? Let's go combat rifle. Oh, look at that zombie in the air. Yeah, this is a pretty flawless experience. Obviously, the 970 is gonna run this well. If you're not in Australia, you wouldn't know this, but Left 4 Dead 2 was heavily censored when it first came out here in Australia. They took away all the dismembering, and if you wanted to get the full gore from the game, you actually had to get a cracked version from the internet. The standard Australian release was heavily censored, but as you can see now, it's looking pretty good. I know this game is quite old now, but it still doesn't look awful. It's aged incredibly well, still very fun to play. And if you've got a 970 and an i7 6700K, this is going to play flawlessly. You could even get away with using like an i3 to play this and you'll get similar FPS. Project Zomboid. Obviously this is going to run pretty well. It's a pretty basic game. I'll just start the benchmarking. Open window. Climb through. Let's get out of here. Oh no, am I gonna die so soon? Oh, we're really sick. And we're not wearing much. Zombies are coming. I think the zombies may actually be faster than us. This is like one of the hardest scenarios to actually win as well. Yeah, we're screwed. But game's running pretty well. Just had a slight stutter there, dropped down to about 7 FPS. Oh my lord, get away from me. We're gonna die so soon. No. It's running pretty smoothly. This is why I like testing these older graphics cards, just simply because, you know, a lot of people are going to be playing games more like this. Most people aren't playing the latest and greatest titles when it comes to this sort of hardware. They're playing older games, they're just seeing how long they can extend the lifespan of their system for. And there are so many old games to play and fall in love with that it makes the prospect of upgrading at all seem kind of pointless, because what, you're going to play Stalker 2? You're going to play the new Indiana Jones game? What happens, most people have a PC and a console, so you can just use your console to play those games and then play these more obscure games on the PC, and you're playing them fine. Look at this, average 175 FPS. You're playing it beautifully. And finally we have Counter-Strike 2. This is not something I would usually play, but we've got to test something a little more recent. I got killed immediately. Like I was saying, this isn't something I would normally play, but let's just start the benchmarking here. 100 FPS average, not too bad. This is at 1080p high settings as well, very playable. You could bump this up to 1440p medium and you'd get similar FPS to what you've got here. But if you wanted to play this game with a 970 and an older 6th gen CPU, you could definitely get away with it. I think the most important thing here is to realize that we are stuck in this cycle of upgrading, consuming, when you can have a system like this with older parts and it's going to play your games just fine. Anyways, this was more of a smaller showcase for what the system's capable of. If you want to see any games in particular tested, let me know in the comments below and I'll download them and install them. I'm open to playing and trying any games really. GTX 970, still alive and kicking in 2024, almost 2025 now. Same with the i7 6700K. This is a pretty solid setup, especially for 1080p, medium, high settings gaming. It's going pretty well.